Hi there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Being a mother is learning about strengths you never knew you had and dealing with fears you did not know existed. That is by Nishan. And grief and love are conjoined. You do not get one without the other. All I can do is love her. Jandy Nelson. Today's episode is titled Surviving Mother's Day Week and Month. Remember this when the pain is too much. As we approach Mother's Day, a week from today, I wanted to take a moment to send out this message at a time when things are really difficult. And I will acknowledge it's difficult for the estranged adult mothers, and it can be just as difficult in a different way for the estranged adult kids. For the month of May, though, I will be focused on the moms, and each episode will pertain to moms and from the mom's perspective and so on and so forth. So if you are an estranged adult child who's listening to this, I just want you to know that moving forward for the month of May, these episodes will be on that topic. So, I as I was preparing for today's episode, I was taken back to that first year when I was estranged and remembering all of those first, right? And that first Mother's Day. And a few days ago, I happened to be in the same town where I lived at the time of my estrangement. And I have a video that will be coming out about what I'm getting ready to talk about. But it was a dreary day, raining, just rain. And I had plans to go and walk on the beach. I had an appointment in town, and the beach was like 2 blocks from where my appointment was going to be. And with the rain, I decided not to do that. Instead, I thought, I'm going to drive by that house that I lived at when the estrangement occurred. And some people might say, why on earth would you do such a thing? Why would you put yourself in that position to go back and relive those moments, right? And I have to say that this is something that I do on occasion. I certainly do not do it all the time, but I think it's important for me to keep me in touch with the good times and the bad times. And to remember that in the midst of the rough times, in the midst of the painful times, in the midst of the soul-crushing times, there were also times of great love and joy and happiness. So I drove by that home and I videotaped that. And as I looked at the house through, I was in my car, the rain's coming down, windshield wipers are on. And I just thought how appropriate for this day at this time to remind me of the emotions that I was feeling that first Mother's Day without my girls. And I thought, how do we get beyond this? How do we live with this pain and perhaps maybe use it for some sort of purpose, right? And you might not be in a place to hear this right now today. And if not, that's okay. Turn it off and go do something that, brings you some joy and happiness. Don't listen to this if you're not in a place to receive the message that I'm trying to convey today. And that's okay. You can come back to this later at a time when you are ready to listen and to receive the message. But I was catapulted back in time to that first year of estrangement and that first Mother's Day. And I remember distinctly feeling my world had ended. That there would be, how on earth could I possibly come back from this? How on earth could I ever be in a place where I could celebrate any sort of Mother's Day celebration? And then I came back to the present moment, and in my face, in the present moment was, look at what's in your life now and how things have changed since 2016. Did it take a crap ton of work to get here? Yep, absolutely. Did it change overnight? Nope. Did it change in a year or two? Nope. We may have reconciled, but it's still a journey that we're on today. So, whenever I think about that estrangement experience and getting from estrangement into reconciliation and that pain that I felt that first Mother's Day without my girls, I recall and am taken right back to labor and birth. And that labor and birthing period where if you've given birth, if you are a person who's given birth, you understand the intensity of the pain, you understand the fear, you understand being in that present moment, thinking at some point along the journey that there is absolutely no way at all that you're going to get through it. Not only have I given birth, I've also a labor and birthing doula. So I've been present with moms who have done exactly that, right? We get to a point where we're like, oh my gosh, this is too painful. It's too much. It's overwhelming and I just can't do this. I'm going home. I cannot do this anymore. And as I have reminded many moms on many different occasions, you don't have a choice. You have to work with this pain so that you can get to the other side. Now, did I shove her off and tell her to go do it on her own? No. Am I an advocate for that? Absolutely not. She had support. She had my support. She had the support of her partner. She had the support of the medical professionals. Together, we all made the dream team. And that is what is important to remember here, right? Is that in the midst of your pain of estrangement, it is so important to feel supported in having your dream team together to be able to help you to work through this pain, this immense pain, this pain that is greater than anything you've ever done or felt before, most likely, so that you can get to the other side. So, going back to the driving past that house that I lived in when the estrangement occurred, I then went down to a local park that I used to go sit at when I was newly estranged. And this park shows, it has a couple of benches out there. It's a very small park, and it sits right on the water, right on the Puget Sound. And on a very clear day, you can see across to the next town north, and you see a couple of islands, and it's, blue skies. You can see some mountains, and it's just stunningly beautiful. On this day that I drove by the house and then went to this park, it was pouring down rain. Fog has set in. You could not see across the water. You couldn't see that town. You couldn't see the islands. The benches were empty. No one was at the park. And I thought how much that reminded me of how I felt that first Mother's Day. That I was in this great fog. I couldn't see out. I didn't believe there was another way out. I didn't believe there would ever be sunshine, clear blue skies, mountains, islands to see, things like that. And how much that day represented how painful the experience is for an estranged mom or parent to go through this time. And then to be in the midst of people who are seemingly to us, they're at a different park where there is sunshine and happiness and all of these things. And here we are sitting alone in our car at this one park because it's raining cats and dogs and we can't see anything, and we're in this fog, and we're like, what in the hell? How did I get here? How do I get out of here? This is just too much. Right? And so I wanted to document that time because I felt that it was so apropos, if you will, of the coming Mother's Day holiday celebration, whatever you want to call it. And I just wanted to talk about that today because I want you to try to keep in mind all the times in your life that you've been through pain and you have been able to experience joy after that pain, right? It's really hard to sit in a place where others around you are, celebrating and feeling joy and happiness and all of these things. And you're like, just shut up. I don't want to hear anything about it. And what I want you to remember is that that's okay. It's okay for you to feel what you're feeling. What I will suggest to you is that you not get stuck there. One way to look at this is it's okay to bring a large pieces of luggage with you on a trip, but don't unpack as if you're staying forever. Right? Because eventually you'll need to leave there and go to another place. So when you are in this place of this week, especially with the week before Mother's Day, I mean, things have already started, right? The commercials, and anytime you go to a store and you see all the things for advertising for Mother's Day, it's really hard to keep it together. So remember, it's okay that you don't have to keep it together. I know that sounds, some people are like, but Kreed, I've got to keep it together. I can't let anybody see me be upset, or I have other kids and I can't let them see me upset, and those types of things. And I'm going to offer you something to think, maybe a different way to approach this, right? So if you do have other children, right, and they are aware of your estrangement, I would invite you to consider a brief check-in with them that simply says something along the lines of, hey, I just wanted to check in with you. This week is going to be a little touch and go for me. And I want you to know that I love you, and I want to spend time with you, and I want to celebrate being your mom. And I also want you to just understand that there is a missing piece for me. So I'll be kind of walking both sides of the fence this week. And if I could just ask for a little extra compassion, and a little extra understanding this week, that would be fantastic. And so tell me, how can we celebrate Mother's Day together? Right? An acknowledgement, people tend to respond really well when you can acknowledge the elephant in the room without going into the whole sob story and, the falling apart and things like that, right? So I think it's important to make that acknowledgement. I think it's important to try to be present in the moment with your children who do want to celebrate you. Okay? Let people who love you and want to show you in this moment that they love you, love on you. Allow them to do that for you. Okay? You can do other things later in the day, in the morning. If you're going out for dinner, you can do in the morning a ceremony of sorts, or some sort of acknowledgement of the child that is not with you, or the children that are not with you, or vice versa, right? But allow people to love on you that day. What can you do to help yourself to cope with this coming week and the days immediately following Mother's Day? Again, acknowledge your hurt and pain. And I find that this is something moms struggle with. They have a really hard time with balancing that and managing the emotions. And I understand. I've been there. I remember the times when I thought, my God, am I ever going to stop crying? Right? And I'm here to tell you that the answer is yes. There will come a day when the tears will lessen and you will be able to focus on other things. But for now, allow your feelings and emotions to exist without judging them, without shaming them, without poo-pooing them, without trying to, suck it up and muster through and get to the other. Like, stop. Just stop that. You are a human being with a heart. You are a human being with emotions. Allow your emotions to exist. I tend to find that when we stop pushing emotions away and we acknowledge them and give them space to be, quote unquote, seen, heard, and validated, that they generally stop their, or reduce their incessant need to be front and center, right? So acknowledge them. I want you to also focus on, and I do this with my coaching clients, and also folks in my support groups, I want you to also focus on the things that you did well as a parent. I'd like you to get a clear glass jar of some sort and different colored pieces of paper. And I want you to write on each of those pieces of paper things that you did well as a parent when your children were young, or young adults, or even as adults, right? Depending on how old they are now. Write down the things that you feel you did well as a parent, and then fold those colored pieces of paper up and put them in that jar, and then place that jar in a place where you can see it every day, because it will serve as a visual reminder for you the things that you did well. Again, you are human. All of us do good and all of us do bad. But I've not met one person who was all bad or all good. That's why you're called a human. Okay, so focus on the things that you did well. I also want you to focus on some self-care things, right? Self-care. What does that look like? When I hear people talk about self-care, I'm a little jaded because I hear, go meditate, go get a massage and a pedicure. And I'm like, oh my God, yes, that stuff is wonderful. I partake of all of those things. But when you're in the midst of pain, I don't know about you, but the last thing I want is somebody, oh, look how pretty your nails are, right? Kind of thing. Not that I don't love manicures and pedicures, but that's just not real deep, meaningful self-care for me. So what do I suggest for moms around Mother's Day? Unplug from social media. Just get away from it. Don't log into your Facebook account. Don't log on to, Instagram. Don't go looking, because what you're going to see is it's going to hurt your mama heart. So don't do it. Turn it off. Just turn it off. Limit your time around those who are either won't or cannot be sensitive to your estrangement experience. Right? Doesn't mean that you have to never have them in your life, but during this really sensitive time, limit your time around them and increase your time around people who can be there for you and help support you through this experience. Get out into nature. You would be amazed at what Mother Nature can do to help hold you as you scream or cry or just want to sit in silence, right? Get out into nature. Take your shoes off, put your feet on the grass, put your feet on the ground, put your feet in the water, whatever the case may be. Get out and get in touch with Mother Nature. Journal. While you're sitting, observing, soaking up Mother Nature, journal. Get your feelings out and onto paper. Write down what you're feeling. Write down what you feel like you're missing. Write down all the things. Write them down. Again, go back to allowing your emotions. Allow them to exist. Don't poo-poo them, shove them away, and all that kind of stuff. Just, oh, yep, there you are, anger. Yep. Oh, there you are, sadness. Yes. Right? Allow them to exist. I also suggest having a plan B. And I do happen to think that this is self-care. Have a plan B. If you're going to some sort of celebration or someone's taking you out to dinner or lunch or brunch or what have you, I always suggest having a plan B. What is a plan B? It's your escape hatch, basically. So if you get to a location or, this event or dinner or whatever, and things begin to go south, you're all of a sudden you start feeling this anxious and anxiety's taking you over, and you're just on the verge of tears, and you just know at any given moment they're going to spill over and you're going to just start sobbing. Press the button for your escape hatch. What does that look like? It can look like if you're coming by yourself, it looks like telling the host or whomever you're supposed to meet there, hey, I just want you to know that, if I get up and leave, or, I need to leave and return home, it's nothing personal. This is just a really hard time for me, and I need to honor where I'm at and what space I'm in, right? People are generally pretty good about that, right? If you're going with your spouse somewhere, tell your spouse, hey, if I say this word to you, or I give you this, nudge or what have you, this is my sign that I need to go, and I need you to support me in leaving, right? So that I can go compose myself or feel what I need to feel without feeling like I'm bringing everybody else down, kind of thing. Have a plan B. Another thing to potentially do is to Consider doing something to be of service to others during this time, right? Consider volunteering at some place, a homeless shelter, or working with kids, something along those lines. I find that it's really helpful for me when I'm feeling really down and really sad about life. When I am doing something of service to others, it helps to lift my spirits, and it's helping someone else. So that's another thing. What if you are not estranged, but you are listening to this podcast because you know of someone who is estranged that you love and care about, and you're like, how can I help them? Number 1, listen with compassion. Number 2, nurture that person. Ask them what they want or need, right? Or if you know what really is helpful for them in moments of depression or sadness, then do those things for them. Remember that this is a time of grief and loss for them, right? They are missing out on milestones. Someone, they feel that this is seemingly something that is endless and won't ever stop. They're dealing with the death of dreams, that kind of thing. So it's a time of grief and loss for them. It might be a time of celebration for others, but for a lot of most estranged moms, it's a time of grief and loss. And remember that there's no closure for them, right? In a death of someone, there's closure eventually. With estrangement, there's no closure. This is a open wound that remains open. It just is what it is, right? So be gentle and be mindful of your words. And I suggest asking that estranged person what they need, right? And helping them to find that. So I hope that these are things that can help you to navigate this very rough time of year. I want you to consider, if you do not already have your quote unquote dream team, I want you to consider creating one, right? A lot of my coaching clients are in therapy. And so I call us the dream team, the client, the coach, the therapist, working together to help support this mom through this experience of estrangement and the pain that comes with that, and how to move through that pain so that they do not get stuck and end up with major depression and things like that. So if you've not considered a therapist and or a coach, this is a fantastic time of year to do that. Allow people to help support you, right? If you have friends, and this is another thing, another piece to this, it's really hard for people who have never been estranged to really understand what you're feeling. I hear this all the time from my coaching clients. Oh my gosh, you're the first person who gets it that I've talked to. You're like, you really get it. And being able to talk to someone who's been there and truly understands what this feels like, there are no words to describe that, and there is no amount of money that you can place on the worth of that. I'm not saying that this is not shaming anyone who is not able to afford those services. I am simply saying it's invaluable support. And if you can find any way at all possible to hire a therapist and or a coach, please do that. It's a gift to yourself. Gift yourself with that type of support at such a very difficult time in your life, because you deserve that. You deserve to have that support. So I will leave it here for now. Know that I'm holding each of you in my heart as you navigate over these next days and weeks to come. And be gentle with yourself. Allow grace to exist. Allow your feelings and emotions to exist. And allow grace to exist. You are not all bad. there are many good parts to you. Don't forget that. This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent, and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, perhaps entertaining becoming a guest on our show, or following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. As a reminder, there is an online support group on Facebook. If you are a estranged mom who identifies as being spiritual and approaches estrangement with a sense of curiosity rather than blame and judgment, and desire to do inner self-work and reflection, please seek us out. We can be found at facebook.com/estranged mothers support group. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out to me via email at theestrangedheart@gmail.com.